If you paid attention to the world of entertainment in the last few years or so, you've likely noticed a trend that Disney has been kinda off. None of their films have been particularly great, and none of their films have been doing particularly great at the box office either. Many people have been quick to speculate that the reason for this ranges from Disney's new change in leadership with Bob Chapek, who was quickly replaced with Bob Iger, to the pandemic, to even some fans' perception that the company has simply gone woke. Yeah, this is really a subject everybody's been chiming in on with various agendas and theories. It's not hard to see why this topic fascinates so many people though. Disney was once a powerhouse in the entertainment industry. They were one of the most respected brands out there. It seemed as if people couldn't get enough of Disney. And now we're seeing none of their films really make a splash critically or commercially. Sure, Elemental had some legs with families and South Korean audiences, funny enough. So that was able to make around $500 million this year, and The Little Mermaid, although underperformed, was one of the bigger successes to come out this year. And Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was not only a really great film, it made a respectable $800 million at the box office. And it's sad to see that Disney has been having the year that they're having because this is the 100th year anniversary of their company. That's a big milestone, and you would think that general audiences would take note of this and want to celebrate with them. With Disney's final film of the year now having dropped, that being Wish, this is a perfect opportunity for audiences to get in on the fun. But it turned out that critics weren't really digging it, and in turn, audiences didn't really show up. The results at the box office speak for themselves. I wasn't sure if I wanted to see this, just for the simple fact that I didn't think it'd be very good. I still decided to give in and give this one a chance. After all, I grew up with Disney, and there's a lot I really respect about them. I didn't want to write this off simply because they were in their flop era. Having seen it now, I should have heeded the warning signs. I understand this film has garnered a polarized response, and truth be told, your mileage will vary with this one, but I think this movie is absolutely abysmal. In all honesty, I was kind of shocked at just how bad this was. I thought maybe it would be kind of bland, but have some nice songs. Nah, this is like straight up empty, and the songs are horrendous. It's sad too because Disney is usually pretty good about releasing a new movie around Thanksgiving weekend, so I was looking forward to having this be a part of my holiday ritual. But look, whether you're a fan of Disney or just want something to do, this movie is so not worth your time. If I was Disney, I'd be embarrassed, ashamed even, that this was the film that we chose to drop to celebrate our 100th year anniversary. Slight spoilers ahead, by the way, if you care. It's nothing too crazy, but you've been warned. The premise of this movie is actually pretty confusing, but basically the film is about the kingdom of Rosas, where wishes are made and given to their king, Magnifico. You see, you can grant one wish a lifetime on your 18th birthday, and it's forgotten about once you give it. It's now stored in a vault in Magnifico's castle. King Magnifico is a sorcerer of sorts who can grant wishes, but because of a tragic backstory that's not explained or elaborated upon, he only grants one a month. So your chances of your wish being granted are pretty slim. The main character of our film, Asha, has a grandpa who is turning 100 years old and wants his wish granted. It also so happens that she's interviewing for an apprentice position with Magnifico. During the interview, he literally shows her this vault and admits to her that he only approves of wishes that are best for the kingdom and won't affect his standing as king. Obviously sparking some red flags, she wishes upon a star, I guess so strong. The star comes down and vaguely does some magic, but really only gives plants and animals the ability to talk. That's not important. What's important is that basically Asha has to fight the king and free the wishes, yada yada yada, betrayal, they save the day, all that good stuff. I guess the problem here is that it's hard to materialize the concept of wishes. The explanation of what wishes are in this kingdom and what they mean to its residents is all very vague. They represent desires that you hold, but are also materialized in little balls that you hand over. If a wish is destroyed, for some reason you feel it in your chest, almost like you're having tightness or something like that. So the wish is a manifestation of you not only spiritually, but physically as well. But what if someone's wish was to forget something? Like childhood trauma. Wouldn't the wish technically be granted once it's given to the king anyway, since you forget the wish to begin with? Also, King Magnifico really didn't see the problem in showing his vault to a young girl he just met a few moments earlier? He's already exposing his master plan to someone just like that? Like, maybe if she had already been picked for the apprentice position and it was like later on in the film, once he gained her trust, this would make sense. But nothing really shows us that he trusted her in any way, and she eventually doesn't get the position. The writers just decided that it was time to reveal this information to the audience, I guess, and this was their opportunity to do it. I don't know. It's also really strange to me that they never elaborate on his motivations more than just wishes caused a tragedy one time and that's it. I remember hearing criticisms that the movie didn't explain the motivation of the villain very far, and I couldn't help but think, wait a second, like, really? They didn't explain that? You sure? Like, I wanted to just watch the movie to, like, confirm that this was, like, what was going on, but yeah, they just introduced a backstory and then never elaborated on it any further than that. If maybe he was lying about there being some tragedy and he's just generally an unreliable guy, wouldn't you think maybe the film would care to elaborate on that more too? No, they don't even do that. He's just a bad guy. We just have to deal with it, I guess. Asha does the thing where she has like the adorkable personality that I know people are starting to get tired of, but like the thing is that personality, that adorkable shtick only happens for like the first act of the movie. And then the rest of the movie, her character is basically nothing. She doesn't really have any motivation outside of just being nice and wanting to serve her family, which is just like so boring and standard. There's nothing really going on there. The animation is fine, but doesn't look amazing compared to Disney standards. I think they're trying to do the thing they did with like the Spider-Verse movies, where they combined 2D and 3D animation, but where that was really revolutionary, here they're just kind of following a trend. It all looks really unfinished, and truth be told, it should have just been a 2D animated movie. It's crazy to me that there's such a demand for traditional animation from Disney that's gone into the mainstream that they just keep ignoring the public and not making that movie. Especially for their 100th anniversary, you'd think they would just go back to it and do it again. And also just did it again for their short that they did, Once Upon a Studio. It was also celebrating their 100th anniversary, funny enough. I guess this is a way to combine the best of both worlds, but it all just looks so ugly and uninspired. As I already mentioned, the songs are genuinely so terrible. They all sound like really bland pop songs, and the lyricism is really awful. I know everyone is talking about the nonsensical lyricism of throwing caution to every warning sign, implying that you're being cautious when the implication is supposed to be that you're taking a risk and ignoring caution. Also, I let you live here for free and I don't even charge you rent is saying the same thing twice, or the use of the word vent and prob in the same song is pretty cringe. But have you ever noticed that with the villain song, This Is the Things I Get, which is supposed to be the big villain song, that the lyrics are geared towards a child who has betrayed them? Really, when you think about it, who is the king referring to in this song? Is it the residents of Rosas? I guess so, because there's like little figures in the sequence that are representing them as he's singing about them. But what's that line then about living here for free and not charging them rent? Is this a socialist society? Do they not pay rent? Does all this matter, you may be wondering? Yes, it does matter. The music is supposed to communicate information about the characters and the world that they're surrounded in, and when you offer this kind of information about not paying rent, it makes you ask a lot of questions. Also the line, I'm always here when you need to vent. What does that even mean in this context? Do the residents voice their concern to the king or talk about their day with him? That's not something that was ever established. And again, these details matter because the lyrics of your songs should inform the audience of information regarding what is going on in the world you are trying to set up. And I can't help but feel with these nonsensical lyrics that either they're just that, nonsensical, or that this song was originally written with the idea that Asha was maybe Magnifico's daughter. And if this was an idea maybe that was thrown around and then scrapped later on, it's honestly crazy to me that they just kept the song anyways as it was and tried to recontextualize who the song was directed towards without just straight up rewriting the song. Why did you just write the song again? You were trying to use some of the same concepts as last time. It doesn't make sense to me. And you know what? To be honest with you, I complain about all this stuff. TikTok's complained about all this stuff. So it's like, I don't even feel like I can add anything else to that conversation. That's not even the worst song. In fact, that's actually one of the better songs in the movie just because of how catchy it is, which is so sad to me. The worst song here is probably the song Knowing What I Know Now, which has some of the worst flow I've heard from a song in such a long time. Like, listen to this.
One thing he it down. It's us and the strength we found. It's too loud. Knowing what we know now. Knowing what we know now.
Like, Neil Breen writing going on here. Jesus Christ. Now, a lot of conversation has occurred over the fact that the writer of this music is not from someone with a Broadway background, but rather someone with a pop music background. That's right, Julia Michaels is a main songwriter here, and her experience includes writing music for Selena Gomez, Demi Lovato, Shawn Mendes, Justin Bieber, among others. This hiring decision does solidify in a way that Disney really just wanted to make a few pop songs that could sell to a general public, but remember, there is a precedent for hiring pop stars to write music for Disney films. Elton John wrote the music for Lion King, and Phil Collins wrote the music for Tarzan. The difference here is that Elton John is one of the most respected and recognizable musicians of all time, with an extremely prolific career. Everyone knows Elton John, and in the case of Phil Collins, he wrote background songs that added what was happening in different scenes and gave that movie a lot of personality because of it. His music and his voice makes that movie really special. If you wanted to get someone who writes pop music to do your music, you either should have gotten someone with more years of experience or a more respected and recognizable name that people could attach themselves to, preferably someone who has more talent. You know, maybe someone like Taylor Swift or Beyonce or something. Not saying that Taylor Swift should have written the songs necessarily, but her music is a lot more respected and she has more years of experience at doing this. Plus, there would have been a more consistent vision to the music to make it more interesting. Yes, Julia Michaels has won 5 Grammys, and her music, in the grand scheme of things, is generally seen as respected, but her job basically is to write catchy beats that you'll hear on the radio, not have a clear vision to make her music interesting. So yeah, this is an extremely bland movie that clearly had corporate meddling involved, and that more than anything is really what pisses me off. Even when a movie is really bad, I'll still be excited to watch it just because of how atrocious it is, but this is just so atrocious because of how lifeless it is. I really think the studio should be ashamed of this one because it's quite bad and nobody is going to remember anything that happens in this movie in the long run. Now, I have to rewatch all the animated Disney movies again. I'm sure, like, Home on the Range is probably worse or something. I don't know. But this is probably one of the worst they've ever put out. I feel really bad for the creative people involved too, because I can't help but imagine that this was probably a nightmare to make, especially with people like Bob Chapek running your business. It really is crazy just how much he likely destroyed the reputation of Disney, and it's going to take a long time for them to recover. Of course, I'm hopeful for the future, but it sounds like they just need a break. And looking at the release schedule from Disney for next year, and how bare it is at the moment, it looks like they're gonna get it. As for Wish, yeah, avoid this big time. I understand not everyone felt as strongly as I did here, but this just really irritated me and rubbed me the wrong way. Hard pass, don't see it.